few weeks ago I did a video talking about how I went from being a pastor and working in the mission field to working in the firearms industry. If you missed that, you can click up here and I'll put it so you can watch it. But I had mentioned that I was going to start a series talking about lessons from the mission field and things that I learned that I feel like could apply to us as everyday carriers or people who just want to be prepared. Again, I'm not claiming to be a subject matter expert. I'm just trying to share some of the lessons I learned along the way that I feel like can help us and that help me every day in the normal things that I do. So the first thing I want to talk about is Recon. Webster's Dictionary defines reconnaissance as a preliminary survey to gain information. And that's what we're talking about today. And this kind of like broad stroke macro concept is what's going to help us in other things in future episodes. So we're kind of following the rabbit hole slowly. And so this is always the first step for me, is to try to do some sort of recon on the place that I'm going, because as civilians, we do recon on locations and not necessarily on people. We're not looking for people, we're looking at locations that we may be going, whether it's a bar, if we're going on a date, if we're going to a resort with our family, if we're just looking for a new place for dinner or a place for work or just a neighborhood that you've moved into, whatever it is, we want to know more about that location so that we're better prepared for whatever we might encounter in that area. And the day that this like really became a big deal for me was we went to this compound and I was going there to go preach and teach. Now, I didn't know it was a compound at the time. They were saying, hey, we've got a group, this church plant, and we're bringing in these leaders, local leaders. We want you to give a sermon and then also to help teach and do some leadership development there. And so that's what I was going there to do. So I was like, okay, cool. And I remember driving through and it's very much a third world country and neighborhood, the area we were in. It's as densely populated as New York City, but third world. So I remember going through there and I'm like, man, I don't know how to get back to our flat if something happens. Like if something happens and like stuff pops off and I've got to get back, I don't know how to get back there. Now I know how to get to the Mediterranean and I can follow the Mediterranean to the Americanized area and I can sit there and figure things out until, you know, whatever course of action I have to make after that. But I was like, man, I need to have a better idea of where I'm going and how to get out of that location should something happen and what I might encounter. And so that's where this like mindset came from for me to start doing recon. So there's a few things that I've since learned from that trip that I think we can apply. And the first one's going to be to do some sort of digital reconnaissance. We have a ton of great resources available to us through our smartphones, and probably one of the most powerful ones you can use is Google Maps. So take Google Maps, Apple Maps, get on Google Earth, get down at street level, and you can kind of see what's around you. So one of the ways that I did this was we went on vacation to New York City, and we stayed in Brooklyn, close to Harlem. And immediately as soon as my wife sent me the address for the brownstone we were staying in, I got in there, got on Street View, started making my way. You know, you can drag the little guy and go step by step. So I went through the surrounding streets. I started looking at all the little corner stores. And what I'm looking for as I go through there is I'm looking like, hey, what does the neighborhood look like? Is there trash all over the streets? Is there, you know, are the cars beat up? Are they nice cars? Is it a nice neighborhood? Is it kind of a rundown neighborhood? Is it look like it's in the process of being gentrified and flipped? You know, photos are always a little bit dated from there, but it's okay. You can still tell a lot. And the other thing too is you familiarize yourself with the area. So as I would go through there through Street View, I remember looking at different corner stores, right? So I remember this one corner store that we would always pass by. I knew when we got to that particular corner store, we had to go left. And then once we went left there, we'd go 2 blocks, there's a coffee shop. We'd stop there to get coffee in the morning. 2 more blocks from there, and then we'd go right down the main street. And that main street would take us to the metro stop where we'd go to the subway underground. And right there, we'd hop on, we'd get on the subway, go into Lower Manhattan, or we'd stop at the Brooklyn Bridge or Manhattan Bridge and then, you know, see stuff there. But typically we went into Lower Manhattan, and then I knew how to navigate and get around from there. But I also knew that the stuff that was around us, I knew where the nearest police station was. I knew where the nearest hospital was. And I knew what was in the surrounding neighborhoods around us. Should we, you know, something happen and somebody's following us and we have to take another route or whatever, I knew where the projects were, and I knew where the neighborhood went from being kind of nice to kind of bad, all from Google Maps and Street View. And so that's one great tool that you have that you can use. Now you can use this, the way you can apply this is if you're moving into a neighborhood, you're looking at a neighborhood, or you've got a new place of business, or you're going to visit a restaurant, you're checking out a new area of town, and you want to see what that area of town looks like, you do the same thing. You get in there, you go look, and you find out. And that's one way you can conduct recon. So another great example is Instagram. So we have access to one of the most powerful social networks to ever exist, and it keeps a record of everything, which can be good and bad. But what we're going to use today is we're going to use the search function, and we're going to type in Royal 38, which is a nice local bar here in Dallas. So type in whatever it is you're looking for, whether it's the name of the business, an intersection, a street, whatever, type it in there, hit search, and it's gonna pull up everything associated with that. But for us, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over to accounts first. Now, if we go to accounts, it's gonna bring up the official account. Now, when you go to any official account, you're gonna get a curated feed, right? They only wanna show you what they want you to see. So it's typically whatever product they're trying to sell you, whether it's clothes or food, whatever. And everything looks professional, right? But one of the things you can do is you can go to the tagged photos, hit the tagged photos, and you can begin to see photos that people have tagged them in. So these are maybe not the most professional ones, but you get an idea for the type of people that go there. You see what the bar really looks like. You see how they dress. So you know that if you show up in a t-shirt and jeans, you might be out of place, right? This allows you to get an idea for what you're looking at. You get to see how the food really looks. Now, the other way that this is really powerful is that we can, still using Royal 38, as our example, we search and then we go to places. Now when you go to places, it's gonna pull up addresses. Now I know this top one is our location, so we're gonna go there. And again, these are all the photos that people have tagged at this specific location. Now they might not have tagged the account, but they've put them at that specific location. So again, we're seeing what the area looks like, we're seeing what people look like, we're seeing what the food looks like, and it's giving just a clearer picture of what we're going into. Now, if you were going into a place of business, this would apply. So you know if you're underdressed or overdressed for an interview or for the job, if you're going to meet somebody for a date. Again, these are all things you can do. And you know that if what you're wearing is going to make you stick out, you might need a change. Again, we'll talk more about that in a future episode. But we just scroll through, we see what they have. And this is on top. You can go to most recent. So this is going to give you an idea of like the most recent photos. And this, again, just use this as a tool, as a way to gain a greater picture specifically about this place. Once we've done our digital recon, we've looked at it at the broad scope, and we've seen it, we know what's around there. I know where the nearest hospital is. I know where the police station is. I know what areas might be areas of trouble for me. I know where I'm gonna park. I can see all that from maps. I've gotten in at street level. I know what's around there. I've also gotten into photos from Instagram and I've seen what's there. Now the next thing we can do is like once we're there in real life, if we're there a little bit early, we take a drive around the block and we just see and make sure that everything lines up with what we've seen. Make sure we didn't miss something. Is there, something around the backside or an alleyway where it might be a little shady, right? So we want to avoid that. Whatever it is, we just take an extra circle around the block. Or if you got time, walk around, walk around, see some of the other shops, come back. And that way, as you're walking around, you see it. You see what's going on there. If you're potentially meeting somebody for, let's say, a first date or for a transaction, like you're selling something, whether it's shoes or whatever, and you're a little bit worried that somebody might be watching you or following you or that it might be a little sketchy, one of the things you can do is if there's like another store across the street or across the corner, a catty corner, whatever, you can go in there and watch the location from there. Like, just look around and then from across the street, look and see if you see anything that looks out of the ordinary, right? Do you see the person that you're supposed to be meeting? Are they there? Okay, yes, I see them. Is there somebody else with them? Are they signaling somebody else, right? Is there anything out of the ordinary? That's all you're looking for, something out of the ordinary that would make you go, okay, this might become an issue later, just so it's on your radar. And then once you've done that and you feel comfortable and you go into location, you're good, you're golden. You've got a lot of information that you've taken in, and so now you have a better picture of where you're going. You've done your recon, you've surveyed the area, you've gained as much information as you can before you step into that place or into that situation. Now, just a few quick notes on things you're looking for as you do this for yourself. As you do your digital recon, whether it's on Google Maps, whether it's on Instagram, or whether you're there in real life and just kind of looking around. What you're looking for are potential areas of refuge. So we're looking for police stations, we're looking for safe places, public areas, right? You don't want to back yourself into a corner or run down an alley. So if if somebody starts chasing you, you can run into like this grocery store or whatever, a public place where there's a lot of people, a lot of bodies, somebody that may help you. Your local hospital or fire station, where all those are in relation to where you are and how far they are from you, just to give you a picture of where you might need to go should something happen. A freak accident happens and you've got a broken leg. How far is it going to be to get there? Somebody gets shot or something, they've got a bullet wound. Where do you go, right? You don't want to panic in that moment and go, I don't know where the nearest hospital is. Well, and you can get them there. Or you can help guide wherever the ambulance or police are coming from. So places of refuge. The second thing you want to look for is places of conflict, places that may become, tense. So again, we talked about there might be like a sketchy alleyway. We want to stay out of there. A very poorly lit parking garage. If you're a female, you might not want to walk in there alone. You might want to find a different spot to park, somewhere that's more well lit. Things like that. That's what you're looking for. If you see an area that, like on the corner, you see there's a lot of traffic. Like I know there's one dart stop in downtown Dallas where there's always these protests, and it's they're always out there with their megaphones, and it's always a very tense situation. And I know like that's probably a place I'm going to avoid. So, and I know that you don't see it in Google Maps, you don't see it on Instagram, but when you drive through in person, you see it. So it's one of those things like it's a place of contention. You might want to avoid that spot. The other thing too is you might want to know alternate routes, right? So you know that if you're leaving a place and you see one of those points of contention, you know there's another route where it may be a little bit longer and it's a little bit roundabout where you have to go down a street, down a block, and then kind of loop back around, but you know a safer route out of there. And then the other two things that you want to look at are who goes there and what do they look like? What do they dress like? What is their style when they go in there? Now, those two things are going to be really important in a future episode, but you want to get an idea not just of the place, but of the people attending there and how they're dressing so that you blend in better, right? So when we think in terms of like everyone wants to wear their Cry camo or their Woodland or whatever, but in reality, when we go out, Gray Man isn't the 511 tactical pants and polo shirt with your Oakley gas cans. So we want to kind of see what we need to dress and wear to blend in better so that we don't stick out, that we don't make ourselves stick out any more than we should. So that's it for Recon. Hope you guys find that helpful, and then I hope you guys tune in for the next few episodes as we continue to go through some of these other things, and we'll talk more about like Gray Man, situational awareness, EDC, things like that. If you have any questions or you think I left something out, or if you have some good tips on how to conduct recon for civilians, leave them down in the comments below. Make sure that like, subscribe, karate chop that bell so you get notified every time I upload a video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.